for the reception for MayWorks Windsor 2014 and for the reception for our Artcite show for it, The Dignity of Work, with works by 3 artists. Dan Bergeron, whose work is along the back there, Dulce Pinzón, whose work is up there, and Allen Kogut's work, who is behind me and everything else. Before I speak about why we did this show and talk about the artists and give Vince a chance to speak, he's the only artist in attendance, I want to thank the MayWorks Committee and thank Susan Gold. And after up here to have a little bit about MayWorks.
Welcome everyone, thank you for coming out. And so I want to talk a little bit about what is labor arts. And there isn't really an answer. It's an ongoing project that we in Windsor have been working on for a number of years. So this show is labor arts. This booklet that we have, the MayWorks have printed this year, is representative of labor arts. For the past 5 years, artists, students, and workers who have a common interest have gotten together and have developed this festival. Artcite, we partner with Artcite, which is Windsor's only artist-run center for the contemporary arts. And Artcite's been in existence 30 years. So Artcite is our home as artists in Windsor. And it's our model of best practice in the arts. And it's our organizational support. So I was thinking it's kind of like our 311 for artists in Windsor. But our 911 is CARFAC, which is our artists union, Canadian Artist Representation. And we depend also on Windsor District Labor Council for their partnership and goodwill for this festival. We're supported in large part by Windsor District Labor Council affiliates. And many of the cultural organizations in Windsor, art and cultural organizations, take part with us in our organization in this festival. And several workplaces, usually the artists' workplaces, will support them and help us out. And we appreciate that support. So, not to take too much time, so I'm going to ask you to, if you promise, to take one of our booklets home. We have a lot of them. Take one of our booklets home, and please read our booklet. Then I won't have to tell you that we're working on it. It's a project that's going to take place at the Art Gallery tomorrow between 1 and 5. And I won't have to tell you that the quilt project that Debbie Dunlop has organized will be launched at the Windsor's Community Museum on Tuesday night. I won't have to tell you about Emily Davidson, who's our artist in residence, who's participated with us in every stage of the festival. And I won't have to remind you that the Cuban Friendship event is later in the month. So I also won't have to point out that Jeff Noonan's article, which is a wonderful parable that he wrote specifically for the festival booklet, is a centerfold. It's called The Parable of King Stephen the Bad. And a wonderful, interesting essay by Patricia Bell on the needle trade. So if you promise to do that, I won't have to mention all of that. Just tonight I want to have a MayWorks call out to the artists of Dignity of Work and to Windsor Feminist Theater, Trevor Malcolm, who's going to play with us this evening, play for us this evening, and the Artcite staff, and Christine.
I might go on a little bit, not too much, but I got to cover the artists involved here and why we did this. I think I got it clocked down to 8 minutes, so let's give it a try. And of course, you know, I'm together with Christine, who can't be here tonight. Horrible stomach flu. Dan Bergeron, he can't make it. Horrible stomach flu again. So I'll say a little bit of them. And the MayWorks Committee, I think we put together a really good show for Artcite. I want to give special thanks to Martin Stevens and Sasha Opico, who were instrumental in handling the show, and shout out to Vince, who came in and helped us the show also. And Vince will be up after I yak a bit on the other two artists to say something about their work. We put together a show that features these three artists who work with heroic, idealistic, and aspirational images of workers. Much as were very common from the 1930s on through the 1970s and into the 1980s. And we do so to ask a question. Are such images, such depictions of representations of artists now out of fashion? Or don't they work anymore? And if they do work, where are they? We don't see them that often anymore, except perhaps in truck commercials. You know, in the 20th century, it was unique that we had such pictures of working people. Before that, it was princes, kings, religious figures. You didn't have common people represented. As social upheaval swept through Europe in the 1900s, we saw the beginning of depictions of the common man. First as soldiers, and first after hundreds and thousands of them died in World War I. And then later as to represent the working man as social upheaval swept across Europe. In the United States, in North America and Canada, when the 1930s Depression hit, we had odd responses, but this began to show up. In Canada, we didn't have very much. We had labor camps, believe it or not, run by ex-military officers. And I had a lot of head beating. In the United States, they tried to co-opt some of the smaller social safety net programs. And with the New Deal, they had the NRA, the CCC, the AAA, all the alphabet agencies. And, you know, they put hundreds of thousands of people to work on infrastructure projects. And the common man begins to show up. Here's something really fun I found. This is a reproduction from the little handbook that everybody who went on the WWEC had given to them. What happens to us when we're on the dole? We lose our self-respect, we loaf on street corners, we lose our skill, we have family rows, we give up hope. You know? And then Uncle Sam can let us starve. Not in this man's country. Who wants a handout? Let us work. You know? And they have all kinds of, and then finally, work keeps us from going nuts. This is American government propaganda 1935. And they said, you know, there was a whole lot of, like, no work, no pay, but you could join a union, at least. Now, one of the groups of people they put together, they had a federal art project. And they hired thousands of artists to pay them 25 to 35 bucks a week. And they had to turn in, like they had to line up and turn in a painting every week or two to get paid. So and these paintings go up in courthouses and in city halls and in libraries and in post offices. So what are they going to do paintings of? First they do landscapes. And then they started doing working men and women and farmers and people in industry. And photographers started taking pictures of them. And people thought, hey, wait a second, this is pretty good. This is aspirational, especially when everybody's unemployed. World War II comes along, you get a new use for the depiction of labor, for the home front, for the working industry, including women. We got the Rosie the Riveteer, and you know, stuff like that. And then after World War II, you have industrialization. You have the idea that we're going to have an industrial working class that's going to aspire to middle class education, income. You got unions coming in. You even have Ford Motor Company hiring Karsh, the photographer who took pictures of kings and of prime ministers, taking pictures of workers in the plant. You know, companies thought this was a good idea then. Okay. You had the National Film Board in Canada doing all kinds of documentary work on working people. And so this was something to aspire to. And somehow though they disappeared. By 1989 we have the film Roger and Me. And that stuff is nostalgia by then. Okay? What globalization, Ronald Reagan in the States, deficit reduction, tax-based shift. You know, even in Canada, Chrétien gives way to Paul Martin, the liberals should have known better. And now, what do we have? We have Homer Simpson versus Mr. Burns. And it wasn't just a conspiracy. We have the postmodern impulse. You know, everything's in three nested quotes. You know, a working class hero is something to be. But then the rest of the song continues. And, you know, I think we're a little bit more than that. You know? I think we're a little bit more than just peasants. Okay? The worker becomes more and more precarious. And he becomes more and more invisible. And yet, he's paying more and more of the bills. In the 60s and 70s, corporations in the United States paid 35% of the tax load. Today, they pay 18%, and corporations are still saying that they're paying too much taxes. So that's your invisible working man is making up the difference. You know, so there's something wrong there. Meanwhile, the United States economists have just reported that income inequality has reached levels that are higher than in pre-revolutionary France. That's ridiculous. You don't have to be a raging red, you know, to say that something's wrong here. You can't hold on. Henry Ford II was, you know, showed off some mechanized assembly lines to the American Union leader, Walter Reuther, and said, are you going to get these robots to pay your union dues? Walter Reuther replied, well, Henry, you're going to get these robots to buy your cars? Okay? So, about the work. Dulce, Pinzón. Okay, first over here. I got to thank Lenny Campello of the Lolita Anderson Art Projects in Potomac, Washington, D.C. If anybody wishes to purchase one of these, you don't get these. These are gallery ones. They run from $1,500 to $2,500. They're very famous. We're very happy to have them here. She's an artist, she's a photographer, she's a labor organizer. She worked with the Latino community in New York and Brooklyn. She was born in Mexico City in 1974, studied mass media and communication at the Universidad de las Americas in Puebla, photography at Indiana University in Pennsylvania. In 1995, she moved to New York, where she studied at the International Center of Photography. She's won tons of awards, and her works have been featured in magazines like Mother Jones, Rolling Stone, Vice Magazine, New York Times, The Guardian, The Washington Post, La Jornada, The Reforma in Mexico, and El País in Spain. She writes about her work, the real superheroes. After September 11, the notion of the hero began to rear its head in the public consciousness more and more frequently. The notion served necessity at a time of national and global crisis to acknowledge those who showed extraordinary courage or determination in the face of danger, sometimes even sacrificing their lives in an attempt to save others. However, with all this journalism, it deserves front page. With disasters and emergencies, it's easy to take for granted the heroes who sacrifice their immeasurable life and labor day to day in the day-to-day lives for the good of others, but do so in somewhat less spectacular settings. The Latino immigrant worker in New York is a perfect example of the hero who has gone unnoticed. It is common for a Mexican or Latino worker in New York to work extraordinary hours in extreme conditions for low wages, which are saved at great cost and sacrifice, and sent to families and communities in Mexico who rely on them to survive. And then she gives them names. There's Mr. Fantastic or Mr. Elastic, Sergio Garcia from the state of Mexico. He works as a waiter in New York. He sends home $350 a month. Chapulín Colorado, the gentleman with the wheelbarrow working construction. Maria is Alberto Lara from the state of Mexico. He works as a construction worker in New York. He sends home $350 a week and so forth. Please, I ask you to read the captions and think about how much rent is in New York and how much you have to work to feed yourself, to put a roof over your house, and still manage to send home stuff. This is why work is important to us. Okay? And she shows you can still use the ironic as long as you keep a leash on it. Okay? Now, next up we have Dan Bergeron's work that is behind you on that wall. Dan wanted to be here. In fact, anybody from any union who wants to, is interested in having Dan do something like this, please get in contact with us. I'll put you in contact with Dan Bergeron. He really would like the opportunity to try and do something like this in Windsor. He was supposed to be here tonight. Unfortunately, that stomach flu is a real nasty thing. He's a street artist and photographer. He works in Toronto. His current project, and you can get to his website through his bio sheet there, oreal.com. And he does murals currently of street people, and he blends them into the wall texture so that they're kind of visible and yet invisible, just like the street people are. The town people in Chandler, Quebec, in 2011, invited him to do work on their laid-off paper mill. The Papier Gaspésie had employed the whole town for years. It has run into financial problems. It had taken $400 million worth of Quebec money, and then it closed. And then, in a typical corporate move, it decided, just so that they don't get their hopes up, it sold the entire factory to a South Korean scrap metal company, who came, took out all the machinery, tore down most of the buildings, and hauled it off. They didn't quite sow the ground with salt. You get the idea. He took portraits of the workers who spent 20, 30 years there, blew them up, and with simple tile photography, wheat paste, put them up 60, 70 feet high on the sides of the water tanks of the town and on the remaining walls of the factory. And you can see these people have names on the company Gaspésie. Roger Murray, the gentleman who was on our invite card, Serge Soucy, at far end, Chislett. And no, it's not George Bush Sr. His name is Paul Dion. Okay? Everybody says it. So he can't be here, but Vince Kogut, he can. So everybody give it up for Vince.
I just want to say thanks everybody for showing up. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the community. To talk about the work a little bit, what I wanted to do with this body of work was create a body of work that represented Windsor as a labor community. As growing up, born and raised in Windsor, my parents are all involved in the labor community. Seeing that growing up really instilled that hard work pays off. It really says something about someone's character. And what I wanted to do is represent that in drawing, and what I like to do. So these drawings here and the drawing on the wall over there are representative of that. They're supported by Windsor community. They're done in Windsor in a studio a block from here by a Windsor artist, and that's what it's meant to represent. This very Windsor grassroots culture. And all of you being here are supporting that culture to move forward. And I can only thank Susan Mold, Artcite, my family, for coming out here and really pushing my work into this culture. And I'll keep it short and sweet for everybody.
And special thanks, of course, also for the Windsor Arts and Heritage Culture Fund and Uniform Local 444 who have sponsored some of these drawings. And now I will do a wrap-up on this and raise the flag of the revolution. Okay? Some say the project of justice, equality, and fairness, in all its own names, has failed, and we are at the end of history. And the global oligarchs will, from this point over, rule over the lives of everyone on this planet, inexorably promoting their interests, amassing wealth, increasing inequality, increasing degradation, and increasing human misery. But at these times, we must remember that we have never been as absolutely wealthy and as absolutely numerous and powerful as we are today, the current circumstances find us in a time when 40 to 60%, the wealth of the society goes to 1% of the population, only serves to point out that it is society, and that is all of us, that makes such wealth and such inequality possible, if only through our acquiescence and consent. When enough of we, as members of society, demand better, we shall get better. Your persistence here today, your presence here today, and the support of all of those who make this small testament to this hope possible, means that the project of civilization has not ended or stalled. We hope it is just beginning. Thank you. We will now hear from Paul Chislett.
Thanks a lot. It's just a privilege to be asked to say a few words. I'm at the Windsor Workers Education Center across the street. The way I relate to things really is as a blue-collar worker. That's what I worked as a blue-collar worker. I was a technician at Dell for 30 years. And, seeing especially Vince's display is really powerful. I was thinking about the recent news reports in Venezuela that President Nicolas Maduro, almost invariably, whenever the media talks about him, they say that he's a former bus driver. And as if the implication is that maybe he shouldn't be there, or that, what is he doing, or he just shouldn't be there, really. And there's also a story, I really don't know the details, but in Bob Rae's government, there was a Bell guy that ran and won election, and he was in the NDP government in the 90s, and when that government fell, of course, everybody had to go back to their workplaces, and the story was that a woman who lived in his riding had said, "You'll never guess who's underneath my porch." And again, that idea I like what Bernie said about the invisible worker. It's just, and then going back in history to the struggles and the art and everything that was produced that indicated that workers are human beings and that they're agents. They're agents in their own lives, that we are capable of creating our own history, and in fact we have. At the Worker Center, especially this year, I think, that's where the invisible workers come. These are workers that are non-union. A lot of workers are recent or established immigrants. A lot of those are women. And people are just being beat up in the workplace, never mind the normal rules, the amount of bullying and harassment, intimidation, racism, sexism, all of it is incredibly rampant, to the point where one fellow came in, he's making $18 an hour, which is like a royalty wage in this town right now, for a non-union workplace. And the intimidation, harassment, and bullying that he's experienced has gotten to a point where he just doesn't want to be there anymore. The $18 an hour isn't worth it. So this idea that something's happened, and I think Bernie laid it out, that something's happened to the very idea of that workers could have a dignity, and I certainly, define myself a lot by what I did, and could take pride and a sort of a sense that I was helping other people, kind of thing, and I could take something from that work. But Bell in the 90s was one of the first major companies that embarked on the corporate farming out of work, downsizing, devaluing work by either contracting it out or the wages were fine, but they kept a lot of jobs were just siphoned off and either privatized or just eliminated, so that devaluation of work, which was the devaluation of the human beings that lived there. And in fact, the Bell operators suffered even the worst, where their entire job function was just eliminated because it was old-fashioned and replaced by technology. So this idea of invisible workers is something, I think the tide, I get pretty discouraged some days. I think the tide is starting to turn, and that events like this and May Day yesterday, which was really terrific, that we're building a sense of we've got to create a kind of a solidarity amongst ourselves. It doesn't matter what we do for a living, whether we're unionized or not. And I just want to wrap up there, but the Monthly Review is one of my favorite magazines, and there was just by coincidence an article written by Greg Shotwell, who's a retired UAW member who frequently contributes poems. Imagine a working class poet. In Blue Collar Review, and he's the author of Auto Workers Under the Gun. And in his article, it's entitled A Practical Solution to an Urgent Need. But he describes working in his early career in a furniture factory where he made handmade furniture that he couldn't afford to buy, but he describes the work and how human it was. But then he talks about when he got on at GM, and this is short and I'll end with it. He said, "We didn't derive any satisfaction from the work. No one could identify the value of their labor in the finished product. Even tradesmen at GM were reduced to routine maintenance, which diminished their skills and mocked ingenuity. They hated their jobs as much as every grunt humping the line or manning the machine. Our reward was a paycheck. When a paycheck is all you are worth, you get addicted to spending money rather than spending time doing things that enrich your life." GM pumped out quality slogans faster than a cow passes methane gas. We didn't pay any attention. How could we? We were up to our necks in toxic work ethics and moronic management. When you grind 110,000 valve lifters in 10 hours, you can't possibly give a shit about any one of them. And it's a great, you can find this article online. It's a great article. He writes with great humanity, and that's just kind of a small sample. So thanks again for an opportunity. I hope I tied in a little bit about where we've been and where we are now and where we hope to go. So thanks very much.
Final speaker tonight, I would like to welcome up Strople from CUPE 543. We'll say a few words.
The dignity of work. Great phrase. To me, dignity of work includes the recognition that every worker and every job is genuinely respected. We're all cogs in the big wheel. Everyone has a right to be acknowledged and appreciated for the contributions that we make. The people who grow it, make it, ship it, sell it, clean up after everybody, provide services to everybody. We're all as important as the ones who make the decisions about the conditions that we all work in. The daycare where I worked for 25 years, I felt the cook and the janitor was important to the place, as were the caregivers who were there. If it was the children were hungry, if it was dirty or an unhealthy place, it wouldn't be a happy place for anybody to be, wouldn't have been a good setting for us. When the centers closed, I was very fortunate to be a union member, have job security, had a lot of seniority, so good bumping rights, and became a job developer. So in my new life, I tie in a lot more, relate a lot more closely to what work means to us, because that's what I'm living all the time. I think being a public servant is an honorable position for me.
Here, here.
I feel it's a privilege to be serving in the community. Privilege to serve with the people that I work with and work for. For me, there is dignity in my work, so I'm really lucky. As a job developer, the meaning and significance of work in our lives has risen to a whole new level of involvement, and I spend a lot of my work time trying to help match people with suitable and available job openings, talking to them about what they want, what they're looking for in terms of employment, and how they can go about it. I've never spent any time asking them about how much dignity they've had in their work history. Never thought about that. But I do know that the people that I see who are unemployed are not feeling dignity in the time that they're spending without work. The lack of suitable work, seeking and not getting the positions that are advertised, feeling rejection, either reinforces that, maintains the dignity, and your self-respect, or can wear it down. So losing a job, that has a lot of costs, as we see in the faces of Dan's oil tanks and people from Despecia. Our area has seen a lot of these faces, a lot of these looks, way too many. Vince's factory working friends, the Dulce's everyday heroes sending money back home to support their families. Those are all realities that we see all around us all the time. Life is hard, working is a struggle, it's what we do, it's a big part of who we are. And it's true and honest and good to have the work recognize the realities of it in this art, in the recognition of the working people who keep it all running. So thank you to the artists, the institute, and to the others who made the representations of working people for us here today. Thank you to Artcite for putting on the show. Congratulations to everybody here, and happy MayWorks to everyone.
However, I would now call your attention to the Windsor Feminist Theater's Trevor who will be improvising on inspirational labor tunes in the background. For your pleasure, visit the bar, grab some MayWorks style brochures, and enjoy the evening. Thank you. This evening is yours.